So what were my expectations before the SADC and how did they compare with reality? Well, I guess Chimal set the scene for us right at the beginning of the programme, and he basically explained what he expected of senior associates at Taylor Wessing and how it really is, essentially a step up. He emphasised a lot the leadership capabilities that were expected of senior associates, and that the course would essentially be expanding upon those. So I knew that there'd be various exercises around those leadership capabilities throughout the course.
As a new joiner, I sort of hoped that I'd learn a bit more about the firm, and I think also understand more about the sort of strengths and weaknesses of myself, my personality in a sort of work context. And I think that overall the SADC delivered on both of those fronts.
The SADC certainly helps associates learn a lot about Taylor Wessing. Two main examples of that are the pitch exercise, and within that you really have to understand Taylor Wessing. You've got to understand its values, who the partners are that specialise in certain aspects, where, the basic things from where we are to how many lawyers we have. You really have to know everything there is to know about Taylor Wessing, because in a pitch, who knows what questions are going to crop up.
Yeah, I certainly learnt a lot about Taylor Wessing through the SADC. Obviously about the firm generally, the sort of worldwide impact of the firm, but also the general resources throughout the firm, different departments, the accounts department that we had a lot of contact with, and were able to ask a lot of questions of, which just meant that we certainly learnt a lot more about that, which just added to our knowledge of the firm generally.
The second example of something else that I really learned was fee modelling. We worked very closely with Jen Walker to understand how the firm approaches fees, and being a transactional lawyer and only being exposed to certain types of fee models, it was really interesting and useful to hear about the other types of fee arrangements that are commonly used in other departments.
Actually, one of the best things about the SADC with the relationships that you form with other associates throughout the firm, and particularly as you're put together in pitch exercise with associates generally from different departments and different business groups, you certainly build a good bond with them, a relationship with them whilst you're doing the pitch, and then following the pitch and following the SADC, you feel much more comfortable sort of speaking to them or going and sort of seeing them within their departments, and that just aids your sort of network throughout Taylor Wessing.
I'd say the two things that really stand out in terms of enjoyment on the SADC, one was meeting new people. Meeting new people in the same peer group as me across different practice areas was great. And the second thing was doing the psychometric test. The questions were quite fun, and hearing the results was really interesting and also quite eye-opening as well. And it enabled me to think about my strengths and where I can capitalise on those, and also have a think about my weaknesses and how I can correct some of those and work on those throughout the SADC.
I think the most challenging thing about the programme without doubt would be the pitch. Actually doing the pitch on the day wasn't particularly challenging, it was actually quite a good experience, and I think all the effort that you put in getting there ends up being worth it, but it's certainly time consuming, and trying to get three people from three different departments and business groups who are all very busy together, the amount of times that you need to do it in order to prep and in order for it not to fall flat on the day is quite intense.
Generally it's quite time consuming. You really have to make sure you've set aside allocated time slots to prepare for the exercises and the pitches, and you have to take time out during the day to attend the courses. So that's one thing, but as lawyers we have to try and juggle that in any event, so that's also a skill you're developing at the same time.
I think overall the feedback that I received following the programme was helpful. I think it was more general than I expected. And whilst they picked up on specific issues, I think you kind of had to look at the whole thing across the board and just work out generally where your strengths and weaknesses lay, rather than anyone particularly picking on specific points. But I think overall it was helpful and did sort of allow you to kind of look forward and think, well, what do I need to do, or what am I good at, and what are my strengths and what are my weaknesses?
We received a lot of feedback throughout the SADC during the course and also after certain exercises. Feedback is always very helpful, it's always welcomed. The feedback from Alison Paucart was particularly helpful in respect to the pitch delivery and how best to go about it. That was great. And also once we actually delivered the exercise itself, her feedback was really useful.
I think if I was asked to do the SADC again, I would think about it. I wouldn't have much of a problem doing the assessment day again. I think overall that was really useful.
So would I do the SADC again? The answer to that is yes. Yes, I would. It was great to meet other fee earners in Taylor Wessing, especially being a lateral hire. And also it was really great to have an assigned task whereby you have to set aside that time to learn how the firm operates, to understand what it stands for, to learn things like, how to pitch, who do we use, who do we go to, what materials do we have, things like that. It's great to, forced is the wrong word, but it's great to be encouraged to do that. So when it actually comes to the time when you do actually need to go out to do a pitch, you have the resources and you know who to turn to.